deckers. The Rare Hunter is back, finally, with another Flesh and Blood video. This is the deck I played for Pro Tour Baltimore. And, I mean, you guys can see it's Phi Rising Rebellion. Some people were, I guess not said, but like they were surprised to hear that I played Phi for this tournament. Especially because I did very well with Ultimate Worlds. But I actually played Phi for a long time, even before Nats and at Pro Tour 2. So, but I guess the other surprising thing is perceived meta, or I guess Phi is perceived pretty bad in the meta. And I think what happened was the meta kind of looped around to where aggro decks were good again. And I posted a tier list, and I rated Phi in like basically like C tier, but like in reality it was like a cyclical meta, and he wasn't really in C tier. He was like in the aggro tier, I put it as. And I think Phi was really, to me, the right choice for the Pro Tour. Basically, Phi is good against Fatigue Ultim and Life Gain Dash and Dromai. But perhaps you would think that the Lexi or Azalea matchup is not so great. In testing, we found that Lexi was, we won a lot of games against Lexi, and I think it was like perhaps a 45% flip matchup, I would say. If you draw your Art of Wars and you resolve them, you're going to kill them. This is a critical mass deck, and you basically deal 30 plus damage. If they don't block, they'll be at 10 or lower, and you can eat their damage and kill them afterwards. I think Lexi is more of like presenting very consistently high damage with 4 to 6 card hands. And I guess to me, I thought that if Phi gets one big turn, the Lexi player, you can eat the Lexi player's attacks, or they'll have to block some and they present weaker hits, but you'll be able to put them basically under the abyss for the rest of the game. And that unfortunately wasn't how it went down at the Pro Tour, but I still thought Phi was a pretty good deck. And if you guys want to play Phi for the Road to Nationals, I think he's a fine choice. So I guess let's just get started with the deck. So we have Phi, obviously our hero, and here are our 2 head pieces. You play Mask of Momentum in, I'm going to say, pretty much every matchup. Sorry, whoa, I didn't say that. I'm sorry, I'm taking that back. You'd play Mask of the Pouncing Lynx in every single matchup. I'm a pretty big mom hater. I think you get an average of 3 value or per draw on mom, but that's like not really the strategy you want to play with Phi. I think Phi, you want to be a critical mass deck as opposed to like a mid-range deck, and I think mid-range kind of suffers and kind of sucks in Flesh and Blood currently, and for a while now, I think. So Mask of Momentum is not really what I want to do. Like, I get it, like if you get 2 mass triggers, it's 3+3 is 6, and then you get to 2 block. That's when it's the best, and that is also why it's in the deck. This card is in the deck for Azalea, because Azalea is pretty bad at blocking. She doesn't want to block, and if you can take some cards out of her hands, she will have a much weaker turn for you, and also being able to get that 2 block later in the game is very crucial. So against Azalea, I want Mask of Momentum, but against Dromai even, I would play Mask of the Pouncing Lynx. You kind of just want to kill Dromai. I think, if you're dealing a massive amount of damage to Dromai, they're blocking and they're not making dragons. So if they're not making dragons, it doesn't really matter for Mask of Momentum. I think Mask of Momentum is fine. You can play it as a fallback if you're like not feeling confident. You'll always have Mask on the board, but I'm going to play Mask of the Pouncing Lynx in most of my matchups. And for us, me and Spencer, we worked on this deck together. Mask of the Pouncing Lynx was just for Azalea. So that's the description for these 2 masks. For chess pieces, we have Tunic and Flamescale Furnace. Flamescale Furnace is for a lot more matchups now. So for a while, if you watched me and Spencer's deck tech for what's it called, Nats, you'll know that we like playing Findle's Spring Tunic, and for a while, I was a huge advocate of Blossom. And the big thing was Blossom, Belittle, Art of War was the best thing to be doing in Fab before the Belittle ban, because you're playing with a 6-card hand. It is broken. And a lot of people didn't understand that, like, the whole point of Belittle was that you're cheating on blues. You're playing a very, very consistent aggro deck that is able to cheat on numbers and get more damage on average than other aggro decks. So, but that's not the case anymore, right? Like, so before we actually went down to like 10 blues or 11 blues, and people were still playing like, I don't know, freaking 15, 16 blues with Belittle. So that's completely different now. We want Flame Skill for a lot more matchups. Like, even in the mirror match, for whatever reason, against Azalea, against Bravo, when you want to block, I play Furnace a lot more now. Tunic, I still play. I think I played it against Lexi, and I think it was fine. I play a lot less blues, so Findles still works with Art of War very well. And I think, like, you know, on average, you want those Art of War turns where you get the Tunic mana, Art of War, get a blue plus a 1 cost, so you're still able to play your 1 cost Ember Blade, pop off with your head jabs, pop your links, get that extra finisher. And so I think Tunic, you have time, it is still very good. And then Flame Scale Furnace is just obviously for the life. We have the Ember Blade for the weapon. Shoes. Oh, shoes, we have Snapdragon and TIE Flippers. This actually ended up being really good. I played this against Zach Bunn on Viserai, and I thought we were in a 1-to-1 life scenario, and I thought that, like, oh man, I'm just dead. But Tide Flippers ended up being super crucial because I was able to block the Rune Chant, 1 Rune Chant, plus the Rosetta. So 2 cards blocking his 1 blue. But my 2 cards is Head Jab plus blue. So I present 3 damage, Searing Ember Blade, 3 damage, and then Phoenix Flame for 1. So that still eats 3 cards off of mine. And then what happened was he missed on a blue, I believe, and he had a pretty bad hand where he drew 3 Moths guys, I think. And yeah, so I was able to, he had to Arsenal his last card. He wasn't able to Rune Chant plus attack. And so with a 4-card hand, I killed him in the 1-to-1 scenario. Oh, yes, I forgot. We also played Breeze Rider Boots because it was actually our Azalea tech, I guess. The big thing was we have this Tiger Stripe Shuko, and this is our loadout for Azalea. I don't think, we're just kind of playing like a mid-range plan against Azalea because it's just good enough compared to like needing Snapdragons for your finishers. You don't need Snapdragon Mask if you're not really going, oh, you can't even see it. You don't really need Snapdragon plus Mask if you're not going for the finisher plan, I guess. So because we're playing Mom, the Breeze Rider Boots, just like you can block a huge dominated hit, and the Breeze Rider Boots means that sometimes you don't have to give up your mask. So that's the big thing about Breeze Rider Boots. I think it actually randomly can come up where you give your combo card, your blue combo card, go again. So as Battle Worn, that's kind of good, I guess. And we also have the No Rune Gloves. Try to respect Kano and Icelander a little bit. We just had a couple slots that were open. This card didn't really matter. At one point, we had Blossom in the sideboard. I think Blossom would be a good Kano tech just to have like a turn 1, I'm going to present 30 damage to you, or turn 2, present 30 damage, just to help win the race. So I didn't play against any Kanos, even though I thought that deck was very good. And as it turns out, I think Team Experience, the California guys, played the Kano deck. And I think, I probably wasn't really ready for that matchup, but I did have the extra No Rune Gloves just in case. And Icelander got a lot of hits. I didn't think that she was going to be like the top deck or anything, but I did have her really high in my initial tier list because I figured I figured if there was anyone who was going to figure out the Icelander deck in this format, it would have been Michael Hamilton. But even Michael dropped the Icelander deck, so Icelander wasn't really real at the Pro Tour. She has a very bad Azalea and Lexi, mostly Lexi matchup, and Lexi is hugely popular. So these are just the equipment, and yeah, no Kodachis. Kodachis really suck. If you ever get paired up against what's it called, Fatigue Oldham or whatever, which was kind of what we're targeting in the deck. All right, main deck. We're gonna do it this way. We're gonna do it the old-fashioned way. We got 3 Mounting Anger, 3 Soaring Strike, 3 Flame Call, 3 Spreading Flames. Here are your really bad 1-cost, air quote, starters. This is a starter, this is a starter, this is a starter. Flame Call isn't really a starter, but if you draw it, you can still start with it and go again for your Blaze Headlongs and your Lava Vein Loyalties. I really hate 1-cost cards in this deck because, you don't always draw the blues, and drawing multiple 1-costs don't work well. Ideally, you draw one 1-cost starter, a blue to Emberblade, and then head jab into a Phoenix Flame, something like that. But yeah, I think with the Belittle ban, this is sadly necessary. I think we played 2 Soaring Strike in our Nationals list, and this wasn't really replacing Belittle, but it was just another starter. I think it was between this and I think the 3rd Snatch or something, but the consistency in having a starter, it's kind of annoying having a breakpoint that can give your Snatches go again. Just stuff like that made me play the 3rd Soaring. These were always good. I always knew they were good. I always played them. Just throwing it out there, I guess. But yeah, here's your 1-cost cards. You guys already know. We got some of our head jabs coming up. 3 Brand, 3 Rising, 3 Lava Vein, 3 Ronin Renegade. Perhaps ranked in order of how good they are. Brand with Cinder Claw makes your generics be Draconic, which matters for getting the free Phoenix Flame. Rising Resentment is always very good to play around Frostbites. And Lava Vein Loyalty blocks for 3, and then Ronin Renegade is literally just head jab with Draconic text. I think Lava Vein Loyalty now is kind of necessary, again, because you just need that critical mass of head jabs. I personally really dislike this card because it's kind of bricky. It's not a starter, right? But it blocks for 3, it hits for 3. You're playing kind of a high rolly snowball deck anyway, so you just want more consistency. This is consistent enough, I would say. So, knocking over the camera over here. Yeah, so I think, you just gotta play these cards. I think Phoenix form is pretty good right now as well, but it's another Lava Vein Loyalty that also only gets go again if you already played a Phoenix Flame. So overall, I would say it leads to you have to play suboptimally to kind of get it off. But I do think playing, you have your Phoenix Flame, you have something like Inflame, and then you hit with them, you Mask of Pouncing Links for the 2nd Phoenix Flame, you have your 3rd Phoenix Flame in the grave. Those ideal scenarios I have played in tournament and hit, and they feel great, but not very consistent still. And yeah. These actually, I only have 2 Rise from the Ashes. I never want to see 3, but this is actually kind of like a head jab. Sometimes it acts as a head jab, but if you can get 4 value off of it, so Rise from the Ashes, get your Phoenix Flame back, which I have right here. Get your Phoenix Flame back. If you can attack with something else, say Blaze Headlong for 7, Phoenix Flame for one, then basically you get your 4 value if you already have another Phoenix Flame in the grave. The other good thing about Rise from the Ashes mostly is if you have your Phoenix Flame and you only have one, you play your Rise, get your Phoenix Flame back, attack for 3, whatever. You close the chain so that it goes to the grave, and you hit them with your silly head jab into Amber Blade, getting the Phoenix Flame back. This actually matters because Shuko makes it so that this is a 0 for 4 technically, right? So now you finally get your buff from Shuko. Really, you want to make use of every point of damage that you can, and so like this helps you trigger Shuko and not miss out on damage when you don't have another cheap cost like a finisher. So this is, I think, a pretty good card. 100% side out if you play against Icelander, obviously, because gives them an opportunity to frostbite. But, you know, apparently Icelander isn't real, and you never want to C2. This card actually, I have a lot to say about this card. Like, it is the only mana positive buff in the game currently, I think. Like, you play it, you get a Phoenix Flame back. Now you have 1 mana. So this is 3+3 Nimbleism with 1 mana. Or you can banish it off of Art of War, which is a play that I really like. Or you tuck it with E-Strike. So this is a combo card, I guess you could say, but you don't really want to see 3. If you see 2 in the same hand, you feel really bad. If you draw one off of Art of War, it feels pretty bad. But, you know, it is a starter. It unbricks your Blaze Headlongs and your Flame Call Awakenings. So I think this card is pretty good. I think 2 is the perfect number. So that's all I'm trying to say. Blaze Headlong, this is your last head jab that hits for 4. This card matters a lot when you are in blocking mode or when you're playing against Bravo. You can just block with your other 3 blocks or whatever, and then you come in 0 for 4. And you can still trade effectively against them because their cards are not very effective if they don't, like, stymie your turn, I guess. And when you play against decks like Bravo or the Oldhams that are trying to cosplay as Bravo, which is 2 of the decks I played against, you know, this makes it so that you're pretending to be like Briar, right? Where you're blocking and you're hitting them with a 0 for 4. It's pretty annoying, and once they miss, you know, the damage that you got from Blaze Headlong is pretty nice. Obviously, like Searing Ember Blade or like a blue for Searing Ember Blade or like a head jab is still pretty good, but I do think that, like, you know, the 0 for 4 makes them reconsider their decisions. Next up, we have some generics. We have 3 Enlightened Strike and 2 Snatch. I originally had 3 Snatch, but Spencer doesn't really like this card because we play like 8 finishers total. And Snatch is really bad when you've already used your Snapdragon Scalers. It's pretty good when you block 3 cards and Snatch, threatening to get an arsenal, obviously. And I also think, like, in the mirror matches, stuff like that, against decks that don't want to block, Snatch is really good just to get an arsenal or continue your chain. And I think, like, when you're playing the mirror match, when you don't use your Snapdragon Scalers, you're very likely to lose the game because that means you didn't get to effectively use all your tools, and the double finisher really gets them. But either way, Snatch was at a 2, even though I upped the Soaring Strike count. So I don't know how I feel about it. I think 3 Snatch is fine, but this has been clunky before, so 2 Snatch was fine for the weekend. It didn't feel like I really wanted the 3rd, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. Enlightened Strike is actually my most hated card in Fi, because I don't like playing mid-range Fi. You know, we don't really want to play Ancestral Empowerment because the philosophy for Fi is you really want to know what your 4-card hand is. You want to know what your cards are, so you don't want to, like, this is like a tangent completely, but you don't want to like play Ancestral because you get a draw from Mask of Momentum or whatever. You want to just be like, oh, I have a head jab, let's just attack with head jab, right? And E-Strike is another one of those cards where it's like a mid-range card. This card is really good in this format because it's a 3-block, which matters a lot against all these on-hits. I think stuff like Sigil of Solace is completely unplayable, but I guess I was wrong, right? Because, the Dromai decks played them. But you really want to have a critical mass of blocking cards in this format, and E-Strike does fulfill that role. E-Strike is fine when you have, what's it called? Snapdragon Scalers, and it is fine when you have Soaring Strike. But during Nationals and Calling Charlotte the same weekend, and subsequently, forever after, with Belittle in the deck, this card was actually a sideboard card for me, for like Oldhim and Icelander. But now I kind of have to like main it, just because I guess it's good against the format, but also like you're just kind of missing cards. You're missing like these power cards in the main. And yeah, I played it a lot. If you think about the math for this card, you 2-card 7, which is similar or if not better than 2 head jabs, plus you get to save a card. So this card is just very efficient, very versatile. We all know, like, I don't know why I'm really trying to explain this card, but in Fi, when you draw stuff like these two in the same hand, when you draw these two in the same hand, you're just like pulling your hair out. I don't know. I hate playing mid-range for Fi in particular, but against Azalea, against Bravo, against Oldhim, sometimes that's just the best thing. And if that's in the format, then you kind of just have to play it. So yeah, I really hate this card in Fi, but you gotta play it. So we have the last, I guess, red cards for the main. Oh, 2 Phoenix Flame, in the main. Last red card in the main are 3 Lava Bursts, 3 finishers, not much to explain, and some yellows next to it, 3 Salt to the Wound, 3 finishers. I did want to point out one thing is I don't really understand why other Fi decks for a while didn't just play 3 Salt to the Wound. Like, it didn't really make sense to me because this card is just a 3-block. It is also a 0 cost, which, I mean, if you're playing Kodachis, that matters, right? But it's a 3-block. It's a finisher. You can search it off of Mask. It also pays for Emberblade. Like, this is just like cheating on blues again. So, oh yeah, in Fi, I hate playing too many blues because, you don't need them. You want them to Emberblade, obviously. You want them to have that extra resource sometimes to get that Phoenix Flame back, but I prefer cheating on the blues. And yeah, Salt the Wound, just play 3. It blocks, and it does a lot of damage. We have 2 Rising Resentment. We're running out. We're at the bottom of the barrel, guys. There's no good cards to play for Fi. And originally we had 1 as a Lynx target. I think if you have double finisher, having 2 of these is pretty nice. And honestly, with Shuko, this becomes a 0 for 3 a good amount of time if you don't have a finisher, right? So like, you lead with this, you Emberblade, you Phoenix Flame, you got your Shuko buff. A lot of times when you don't trigger Shuko, you're missing out on damage anyway. But Rising Resentment with Phoenix Flame, you're basically getting a head jab out of this. So the math just kind of worked out so that like it kind of is the same because of Shuko. I think sometimes I've drawn this without a red, plus I have like Blaze Headlong, but I was able to just kind of end the chain on Blaze Headlong. So like I wasn't playing the way I wanted to play sequentially. But it was good enough. I think you could try out Ride the Tailwind. I picked up some the day before the tournament. But Spencer was like, that card's bad, don't play it. And I was like, all right, fine. I do think that Ride the Tailwind is cool. Like, I did forget that Salt the Wound is a 2 or lower, and so is Lava Vein or Lava Burst. We don't play the blue snatches anymore, but because I hate the bricks, but yeah, I think like Ride the Tailwind is possible consideration if you don't want to play Rising Resentment. I think one yellow to search off of links is relevant because there's times you get the double finisher hands. And the last yellows are 3 out of 4, obviously. Moving on to the blues, finally, we have 3 Brand, and then 3 Cinderskin Devotion, 3 Lava Vein Loyalty, 3 Soul Beat Strike, and Winds of Eternity. Originally, I was going to play this Dishonor, but Spencer wanted to play this Dishonor, and I had like the extended art, so I'm playing the Winds. This card doesn't really matter. I think for a while, like, I actually had like one of each of the 0 for 3 or 0 for 2. Oh, you guys can't see. 0 for 2 power, 3 blocks, like at 4 of them. But Spencer recommended I try out Cinderskin Devotion. I think he's right. This card was relevant. There's times where you draw double blue and you just have the resource that you could use for Cinderskin, and now it's a 2 with Go Again as opposed to just a 2 that you kind of have to awkwardly end your chain on sometimes. Triggers Phoenix Flame. Like, the Go Again clause does matter if it reaches a later stage of the game. There was a couple times where I drew like 3 or 4 blues somehow with this deck, and the 0 for 2 mattered. So the big thing was like, this is a draconic attack, and I think he's right. Like, these are pretty good. For a while, I just played 3 Brand and 3 Rising Blue because I really like Spreading Flames. I think Spreading Flames is your Art of War 4 through 6. So if you stack double Art of War, you know, these cards are what'll help you to get those big Spreading Flame turns. Spreading Flames pumping Searing Ember Blade matters a lot. And but yeah, Soul Beat Strike actually is just the other best like 3 block blue, because the Go Again matters. They sometimes will block it, sometimes I mean they could block it, but you're never gonna just empty start with this, right? So this matters specifically against the dragons in Dromai, where you can just kill one, get Go Again. The 2 power is relevant because like you want to efficiently deal with Dromai's dragons. You don't want to be, you know, swinging way too big into a dragon. And yeah, not much to explain about the blues. We play 13 blues. I had 12 at one point. I had 14 at one point. Spencer and I both kind of agreed that like 13 felt pretty good. It felt pretty good. And I think just having the 2 yellow risings was like cheating on blues. You know what I mean? And yeah, that's the main deck. And we have 10 remaining sideboard slots. We have 3 Command and Conquer. This card comes in and out for a lot of, you know, cards pretty frequently. This card is very good in the meta. It's good against Dromai. It's good against Lexi. It's good against Azalea. It's almost good against Oldham, but I don't know. I don't like bringing it against Oldham because it's very clunky. So you just need to play this card in the format. But we play so little blues, so I don't know. 3rd, Phoenix Flame. This is actually only for the fatigue matchup. Having 3 is kind of nice just because you can combo more. You can do your flame call turns back to back and not have an issue. You can more effectively have double Phoenix Flame on those Rise from the Ashes turns. So the 3rd Phoenix Flame is against Oldhim and life gain dash. Just, you know, if you want to play it and other times as a filler card, it's fine. Like, I hate drawing this card. We only main 2 because, and for a while we actually played 1, but we only main 2 because Flame Call is good. Flame Call plus E-Strike is good, right? So you don't really need more than 2 in the aggro matchup, and it's devastating if you draw this in the aggro matchup. So the third one is pretty much only for your fatigue matchups, which is like a big reason why we play the deck. Like in this format, we kind of figured out like you kind of just choose what you want to lose to from our testing. This is the Pro Tour that I tested for the most and I felt the worst about. Yeah, like I think if I figured out Lexi sooner, I knew it was good because I believe in Talishar data, but I just felt like, oh, I need to get 6 value off of each of my Rain Razors, and pitch stacking might be pretty relevant, and I don't really want to put myself through that much mental fatigue playing that many rounds. But I guess it was like 4 rounds of CC only. So I'll have more comments about that afterwards. Let's just finish the deck. So Infectious Host, we had 1 extra slot in the side. We had like a lot of slots extra. Like you could just kind of play whatever. I think we just decided on Infectious Host because it was an okay card to bring in against the Codex decks. That's pretty much it. Like if they Codex you, you get back Infectious Host. You're like, haha, you get a Frailty and you get a Blood Rot. And this actually happened in my 5th round of CC. But the funny thing, or not funny thing, is I was dead to the Blood Rot, so this didn't even, it didn't matter. I gave them their Frailty token back. I got the mental victory. And when I had this against Matthew McInnes, I think, in round 13, he was like, oh man, now I don't want to play my Codex of Frailty, and he pitched it. So this is kind of funny. Like this card is whatever. I don't think it's great. Way better in Briar because you play 0 for 4s and you can give them go again more often. But this was fine. We were just testing. It was going to be a Titanium Bauble, but I didn't want to troll that hard. 3 pink sinks. You only need 3. But I think I've seen lists that play Red Reinforce Line. I think that card is pretty good. But I don't really want to play that style, right? Like I think specifically it's really good against Bravo, where you play like a mid-range style and your 2-card hands is Head Jab blue so that you can Head Jab, Ember Blade, Phoenix Flame, and you leak them pretty well. And then Reinforce the Line makes it so that you can block their crush effects, obviously, right? But I really don't want to play that style, and I didn't think that Bravo was going to be that great of a deck. But obviously, it was actually like top 5 most represented next to Katsu. And so, yeah, it could have been fine. I beat my 2 Bravo opponents anyway, so you don't need them. I think they're also fine against Azalea. I was thinking this could have actually been the fourth sink below, so like Reinforce the Line is the 4th card. Like you could have played Reinforce Line as Infectious Host. That would have been a totally fine thing. I just don't like that Reinforce the Host pretty much guarantees you're committing a block with a attack in your hand. Whereas like Sync is like, if you arsenal this, you could just Sync plus armor, right? You can't, Reinforce the Line has to block. So I think it's a fine card, but I just played the 3 Syncs. And lastly, 2 Epots. This was just in case we built our deck wrong. This is a pretty funny slot. Pretty good against Icelander, but apparently Icelander isn't real again. But we brought it in against like maybe 1, like a Miser 1 against Lexi in case they were ice, and 1 against Oldhim, maybe even 2 against Oldhim. They don't really block. Going first with them is pretty nice because you could just like start Epot, but I do like leaking damage on them. So, this was, to me, was like, in case we built our deck wrong, in case we were wrong about 13 blues, we get the option to always have extra blues. And I think that was, I think it's a fine way to build your deck, right? Like you just have a little safety net, like make adjustments throughout the tournaments. And you got to be flexible, realize that maybe your testing or your game plan didn't really work out, and just adjust accordingly to during the tournament. I think I'm going to talk about the tournament experience, but also make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe if you like the deck tech, or if you didn't, still help your boy out, right? Let's try to reach a higher subscriber count. And but yeah, Pro Tour Baltimore, we, as in me and Higashi, who is my traveling roommate this time, we got to Baltimore, let's see, Thursday, right before the banquet. Banquet was really awesome. No free drink vouchers this time, but it had better catered food. There was some, seafood chowder that was pretty decent. Everyone got to eat, which was big plus, right? I think it was very nice seeing people again, like at a big event, and kind of just socializing. And yeah, I really liked the World's Banquet because I was there early. I was like third or fourth in line with Higashi, but like this time it was, just experiencing that again. The socializing aspect of card games made me really enjoy that trip, I guess. We had really close seats to the front of the PowerPoint, but everyone just like crowded around in front of us, man. Those, I don't know. I'm just saying it's kind of messed up. We got good seats, and then people crowded in front of us, and I couldn't see jack. So I don't know anything. I really want that Prism statue. I really want that Marvel Prism, because your boy, he's the rare hunter first, and then Flesh and Blood player second. So the new set looks awesome. Love Prism. I'm still a bit too pussy to play Prism in a tournament, but I did play her in Blitz at Worlds, so obviously, I guess I can't really say that, right? So first day of Pro Tour, first round was Zach Bunn. I was like, man, tough. You know what I mean? Like straight out the gate, playing a tough opponent. I think Pro Tours have gotten a little harder, obviously. A lot more of the same faces in the scene. Zach played Viscerai, and I think it was, like I said earlier, it was a 1-1 game. Very close, very pleasant opponent. We bonded over our Taylor Swift, love for Taylor Swift. I had my Taylor Swift merch, took a photo on like the third day as well, so that was super awesome. It was a pleasure to meet Zach, pleasure to play against him, and I luckily was able to dispatch him in a very close game. I think he was right. Viscerai is pretty good. Viscerai was on my underpowered or underplayed, underexplored tier, and I think, truly he is underexplored after like the ice bans. So second round, I got to play against Roger from Manor Podcasts. Yeah, I was like, damn, another tough opponent. He played Ultim, which I was like, oh yeah, finally, this is why I brought the deck. He cosplayed as Bravo, and he basically Terra Sundered me, not in this order, but like he hit 2 Terra Sunders, 2 Spinal Crush, 2 Chokeslam, and like I think some other disruption spell. I don't really remember. But basically, I just had no actual turn in the entire game. And he played very well. He ate some of my damage on one turn. I had like an okay turn because he just like glacialed me for 8. And I was like, I guess I have like a 3-card hand or 4-card hand that I could play with because I had no arsenal. And he ate the damage to Terra Sunder me. And I was like, wow, this is just brutal. Because he was playing Anathos, which I love Anathos. I was thinking about playing Anathos in Ultim for a long time because I was like, man, Titan's Fist is so ass. But now that like you remove ice, which I hate, but I do respect it, you remove Anathos, or you remove ice, play Anathos. Anathos with Terra Sunder is really good. Anathos is just like one of the most efficient weapons in the game because you can pay 3 to 6. Like Zealous Belting Anathos, cosplaying as Bravo is just actually really good, but you get the benefits of playing Crown and Rampart when you need it, I guess, right? So I actually lost that matchup, and I felt pretty bummed out. I felt like this was the reason to play Fi, right? Not only does Fi beat Fatigue Ultim, Fi beats like Oldhim that is not running ice. And the whole reason to play Phi was the lack of stalagmite in the format, which when testing, me and Spencer were testing like some of the first and second place lists from the Battle Hardened, and we were like, oh, this just poops on the mid-range list. It poops on the fatigue lists, and they're cutting stalagmite. But I'm like, wait, we should really test against the actual good deck, which is Michael Fang's Battle Hardened Charlotte winning deck, and we just got dumpstered. I mean, I played on the Phi side, and Spencer played on the Oldhim side, and I got dumpstered. Like 1 or 2 ice reacts plus 2 stalagmite triggers, and you're just like, God, this is such a hard matchup. And I was like, if people are playing stalagmite in Oldhim still, you know, I think it's very rough for Phi. But for all the people that weren't at the Pro Tour, this deck, I think, really should have beaten it. But Roger did like tell me afterwards. He was like, you know, I think I high rolled you, and I'm like, yeah, we both knew, but you know, I think it was very respectable of him to kind of acknowledge it. And I don't know what I'm trying to say with this in the end, but I felt like I felt like I was favored, but I didn't get a chance to prove it. And then I played against 2 Bravos in a row, and I was like, what the heck? My 3rd round Bravo opponent spinal crushed me, or not spinal crush, drew unlucky or lucky. He Showtime for Crippling Crush, in which case, right afterwards, I just threw out my big combo against him, and then he just goes Crippling Crush. He blocked 1 card, drew a card off of Showtime, and then he was like, ugh. And then he basically pitched like, or maybe he didn't block, but basically he pitched red, blue, Crippling Crush from Arsenal, and then he was still able to Arsenal cards, so I don't think he blocked. But then next turn he went Crippling Crush, red, blue, Arsenal card. And then he went Crippling Crush, red, blue. So he was kind of disappointed that he didn't get to dominate. And I think if he dominated on any of those turns, I probably wouldn't have won that game, I guess. But, I mean, I don't know. You play red cards in Bravo, and that could happen. And, I mean, drawing 3 Crippling Crush in a row is kind of lucky still. I don't know. I think my opponent played the best that he could. It was just not in the cards, right? And same with my 4th round Bravo opponent. I think he played pretty well. But I think Phi, I think it's like a 50-50 matchup. I think, well, actually, no. I actually think this is like a 48-52 matchup for Phi. Like, I don't think Phi is favored, but Phi can close out the late game scenario because you go Head Jab, Ember Blade into Phoenix Flame off of 2 cards. And you have a lot less 3 blocks against their Anathos, but you can make them bleed. So Phi in the late game surprisingly can close out against Bravo, especially when we were testing for a while. But like if Bravo ever misses, if Bravo ever just Anathos for 6 you have a good shot to deal a shit ton of damage against them. Then we went to draft. I drafted Benji, forced Benji in my first draft. I did a Benji draft in the night before, and it was nuts. I think everyone is like kind of afraid to draft Benji or doesn't think Benji is good, but the unblockable damage is really, really good. And I guess I had really weird matchups as well. It was like 3 Benjis in my pod and 3 Riptides, and then I lost to, God, I'm so sorry. It's probably, I think it's Rob. I don't remember. But I lost to Benji player. He won the die roll. He made me go first, and I leaked 0 damage. He had like a, I don't remember, what was it called? Peace of Mind Blue that he was able to play, and he was like, oh crap, I have nothing else. If he attacks me, I'm just, you know, taking a crap ton of damage. And I had nothing. I just couldn't leak anything. And then obviously you're just super behind because from there he gets the initiative. He has tempo to attack me first, and then I leak damage. His deck was also slightly better than mine, even though like the two other Benjis were in the other corner of me. So I think my seat was right for Ninja Draft, but yeah, got dispatched there. And then I played against Riptide, which I beat. And then Daniel Rakowski gave me some tips against Riptide. He was in my pod, and I kind of asked him, like, what do you think about this matchup? And he was like, yeah, you just, block out the Riptide and deal damage. Block damage where you can and deal damage back. And Riptide can't effectively use their hand, and they want to block, but you present an unblockable damage. So when my opponent presented a big Riptide attack, I just blocked it, and then they weren't able to ever capitalize off of me having one card. So Kodachi, and he had to block with two cards just to kind of effectively use his cards. So it was really interesting. At this point, I'm 5-2. I make day 2. Second day, draft. I draft a 30-card Riptide deck. Lose the first round again against Francesco, who top 16 top 16 with Uzuri. His Riptide deck was insane. It was like a 38-card Riptide deck. Clearly just a Riptide master. I think I remember he was in the pod next to me the previous day or something, or he sat in like a game next to me the previous day, and he was drafting Riptide. So I had a feeling that he was going to be drafting Riptide, but I first pick Premeditate, second pick Codex of Inertia. Thought I would stay open as Assassin or Ranger, and then like Christian Huck passed me a Ninja card as my last card, so I'm like, okay, so he's saying that he's not going to be a Ninja, presumably, and I'm like, but I'm kind of already like, committed to, my first pack was like Ranger or Assassin, and then like the second pack, I'm like, okay, my players next to me, Nick Butcher, Peter Budensig, were in Assassin, and I'm like, okay, I'm fine being Ranger, I'm totally fine, but as I take those cards, the last packs were coming by. It was like three ninja cards. I was like, fuck, this is just, we're getting demolished. We just have one ninja drafter at the table, and I end up with a 30-card Riptide deck. But second and third game, I get paired against Azalea and Arachne. Azalea, I was able to put out a Withering Arrow that was like 9 damage or something. And then my opponent did a toxicity turn, but kind of like miscounted the, kind of like forgot about the frailty token, which matters a lot in the Ranger Mirror and in the format in general. Withering Shot is probably like the best arrow. They did like a toxicity into Dominated, I think Blood Rod Shot. I don't remember what the name is. But it was only for 5, even though it was a red, with an aim counter. And so, of course, I draw my one blue Piece of Mind that I drafted, and I was able to like, deal 9 damage previous turn and then block all of your damage. So that was super good. And then I was able to like block 2 cards, fire a really annoying arrow for 5 or 6. And so Riptide did the Riptide thing. That lined up very well. Arachne, I actually was able to draw like perfect Riptide hands every turn, which is basically like buff and then load an arrow, flip the arrow face up with Castaway, giving it the aim counter, fire an arrow for like 3+6 or whatever, right? So I was able to do that, and then they had to block with their Death Touch, and which was like one of their key cards in their deck. And basically my hand just lined up perfectly, and then he got fatigued, which is really funny because I only had a 30-card Riptide deck. But he was also the 3rd assassin in a row, so in that corner to the left of me. So I felt like his deck was probably going to be weaker than mine, but yeah, it was just like I got pretty favorable draft pairings, I guess, so it worked out for me. And then we go into the last 4 rounds, the CC, play against Lexi. I had a turn where I had to like play out in a very weird sequence because I had E-Strike and I had Command and Conquer, and I ended up playing out my like Lava Burst. Like huge chain, Lava Burst with links, right? Links into Lava Burst, Snapdragon, play out my Phoenix Flame for some extra damage, and then I wanted to see how he blocked so that could choose between going for E-Strike for 7 damage or draw a card or play the CNC. But to play the CNC, I had to pitch the E-Strike from hand and the Phoenix from my grave that I got back after my Lava Burst. So it was like some crazy turn, and I was just like, it was such a weird turn. And I think if I just CNC'd and not chose to be an idiot, I probably could have done a lot because I let them have like a 6-card hand, right? And the only difference was I threatened 2 more damage, which I didn't calculate properly prior. And yeah, let me see. Sorry, I'm trying to recreate this hand. And so, let's see. Lava Burst. So let's just say we had like our 4 chain links and Ember Blade, Lava Burst. Something like this. It was like a very interesting play. And then I'm like, I wanted to do this because I had this setup, right? Where I'm like, damn, E-Strike freaking sucks. So I'm like, all right, get the Phoenix Flame back. I don't remember if he blocked. And then I went Phoenix Flame, E-Strike for 7. But what I could have done, which was the original plan really, was like you eat all this damage, try to do your 6-card hand, and then I force you to 6-card. But I was just like, I don't know. I was like, oh man, this is more damage because I go Phoenix Flame and then I E-Strike you for 7, and this is like 8 damage. I mean, if you look at it, it's 8 damage versus 6 damage. So realistically, I should have just sacked the 2 damage, make him block 2 cards. So now he has like potentially, I mean, he potentially had to block with 3 cards, right? So I don't know. Could have ate 2 cards, and then I would be at like 20 plus life to his 10. And from there, it's just, really easy to close out. So I lose to Lexi. Didn't cast Art of War. I drew my Art of War when I was blocking after those turns where like he did like a huge turn with his 6-card hand or 5-card hand. I don't remember if he blocked one on my E-Strike. But I did put him to like 2 or 3, and then I'm just like, man, really regretted it. Next round I play against Ultim. I think it was he was another member of Team Wolfpack, and similar deck to Roger, but didn't hit as well, and so I was able to kind of like, he threw out like a blue glacial or something, right? And I was like, all right, 30 you, and he's like, and he knew that it was like not a favorable matchup, and that's why we played the deck. It was a pleasure to play against. We played pretty fast, even though we didn't need to, and I don't think we really like made any misplays because we played fast. But I think like it was nice. It was like a pleasant game. And then I played against Lexi into Lexi. Both of the times were just like didn't draw Art of War until I was blocking. And they were very close games. They were both like down to like 1 or 2 kind of thing. And then, in round 13, I got wrecked where he fired his Bolton. He had no cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal, fired the Bolton shot, and I'm like, yeah, I drew my 4 2 block hands, 4-card 2 block hands. And so I had to give him 3 cards, and, that just made it so I had 0 chance. And then I just died to like an arrow plus Rain Razors, which I was never going to overblock at that point. And so, yeah. Round 14, he even had like a really bad turn where he played like 1 arrow and then he had to Arctic Incarceration. But it was like, my turn was even worse. My turn was like Salt the Wound, Art of War. I had Spreading Flames and Arsenal. And then like E-Strike, Salt the Wound. God, let me just show you guys really quick, I guess. I just love bitching about my games. Spreading Flames and Arsenal. Like Art of War, this, like a head jab, and the stack of cards. something like this, right? And I'm like, oh, I get hit with 3 frostbites. Crap. Oh no, sorry. Where's not this. Give me the. It was assault wound. Oh god. Maybe it wasn't CNC, but for sure it was like these. And I'm like, wow. I'm at 24. He's at like 29, for example. I'm like, I have to do something and effectively use my cards this cycle. Otherwise, I kind of just eat damage for no reason, right? He could probably kill me with a 6-card hand at 24. So I'm like, all right, I guess I have to like basically, you know, pitch 3 to E-strike 7 damage. And so, you know, that was like the one time I drew E-strike against Lexi and can't really use it. But I could have, I don't know, because this is a really bad Art of War hand to begin with still. So I think I did the right choice. Like, if I had a blue for the Art of War turn to like Art of War, I don't know, like just not having a head jab was just so awkward. And this is why I really hate E-strike. You don't know, E-strike is really bad on your Art of War turns. Eating a card is so bad because you don't get the double buff from Art of War. You would rather have 2 head jabs in this case. But yeah, this hand was just so awkward, and that's it. And then there was one turn later on where I attack, and he really frivolously blocked with 3 cards because it didn't matter because he was like, I think like Tunic, 3 of a kind from hand into 3 of a kind from arsenal, and just like demolish me with like 5 or 6 arrows. So yeah, that was kind of my experience. I went from 7-3 after draft, feeling like, man, I can actually top 8 again. What are the odds? Like, feeling really good about draft, like escaping 4-2 in my death pod was like nuts. But then like I decided to take the 45 coin flip into Lexi, and I flipped tails all 3 times. I'm not really sure how much better I could have played to make that matter, but if I did draw the Art of War, I think I could have had the games, right? So, yeah, overall testing philosophy for the thing was, again, like, Phi was a fine choice, and you choose what you wanted to lose to. And for me, I didn't want to lose to fatigue, and yeah, that was it. That was it. Didn't want to lose to fatigue, which there were a good amount. I know someone that played against 4 life gain dash, and then if I was in that bracket and he was in my bracket, like we would have tore them up, kind of thing, right? So that's kind of how it all always plays out. I think this format in particular, more than other formats, is pretty much a matchup lottery, or you decide what you want to lose. You decide what you want to lose to. You could play Lexi and have more than 50% into everything, but it's more like, you know, sometimes it's 52%, sometimes it's 57% into something. But Lexi is definitely the best deck. I'm probably going to try playing Lexi for Roach Nationals, but for a big tournament, I definitely love to metagame. I love to get a huge edge against the perceived best decks. I love to get a huge edge against the best players, because at the highest level, you know, it is a little luck dependent in the first cycle of the draws, and having that extra percentage point, being like, you know, this matchup generally is 60% into your deck, greatly improves your odds of winning. So I thought Phi was a pretty good choice. I played against some of my good matchups. I did not play against any Dromice, but they were all sitting next to me, around me. I saw them escape. They're like, oh, I don't have to play against the Phi. I see you guys. But yeah, that was my Pro Tour experience. Ended up 8-6. Lost to my last round opponent, who ended up ended up in 69th place anyway, which kind of I'm just like, ah, man, I didn't realize your breakers were a lot worse than mine. I should have just played better. Should have won. Elo tanked, pretty much farmed this. I got farmed this entire PT, and then, but now I feel like it's kind of nice. Like I get to be a normal person. I get to play my road to nationals. I get to play all these tournaments, and I can be like, nope, I'm gonna go for my Uzuri. I'm gonna go for the invite. You know, it feels nice to play because I didn't play during ProQuest season. I wanted, you know, both to offer a chance for my local players to get another player on the Pro Tour, but also like I don't have to play because I just get a free invite. The current the current way Elo works kind of incentivizes you to kind of camp your spot and not really play much. And I think like, you know, pride or not, I think if you have a free invite to the next Pro Tour, to Worlds, without having to spend your PTI, without having to spend like $400 to $600, I think it is the right choice to camp your elo. So I wouldn't fault anyone for not playing certain events. I totally get it. But now I'm just kind of relieved that like whatever elo updates after this, you know, I got my elo slurp from the tournament. I got my elo slurp from Gem not dropping me from the Battle Hardened. I got my elo slurped from dropping from the calling and then still getting registered in there. I have some complaints, but you know, I get to be a normal person and play the game again. So overall, yeah, I am disappointed that I didn't cash, especially because they doubled the pricing on this Pro Tour. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you guys are stuck around to listen to my entire bitching session, and yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. I'll probably see if, I don't know. I kind of like this format of deck profiles, deck techs a little more than just sitting behind the Talishar screen and talking. So if you guys want to let me know if you prefer this or if you prefer the other style. I just think the other style is a little more boring, but you get to see all the cards. I don't know. I like talking about the individual card choices and the interactions. And it's easier to follow my train of thought with the cards in front of me as opposed to kind of like they're spread out and sorted based off of specifically how Talishar sorts it, because there's like no like custom sort, I guess. But yeah, let me know what you guys think of the format of the format of the video, the deck tech, and let me know what you guys are gonna play in Road to Nationals. Let me know if you guys got any cool Fi techs. I really enjoy Fi as a deck, and I think he's still pretty good, but I think it's good in a certain meta. So, yeah, that's about it. Thanks for watching, guys.